aware of that?
Well, you can have Patrick.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Good morning. I'm Mike Wagesback, and this morning I did a presentation on nuclear power. So a brief outline of what we're going to do is we're going to go over what nuclear power is, the process, the nuclear reactor, the components of the reactor, and the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power. So what is nuclear power? It is the alternative power source, or an alternative power source, which is produced by any nuclear reaction, which can be broken down into basically nuclear fusion and fission. So what fusion and fission are is basically isotope atoms are separated by impact within each other, or the exact opposite, low carbon atoms are fused together. Both create energy in the form of heat, and this heat is used to heat up a fluid, usually water, into steam to run a turbine to create energy. So the schematic of a power plant, as you can see, inside the containment structure is where all basically the dangerous stuff happens. That's where the fusion and fission takes place. And you have, it's a basic Rankine cycle. You have the reactor vessel is basically the boiler or anything to heat up the fluid. And so through fission and fusion is where it happens. If fusion or fission separates the atoms, fuses the atoms, creates heat. This heat heats up the core temperature of the water or any fluid running through the cycle. It is then turned to steam. The steam drives the turbine, which then the water goes down through the condenser and back again through the cycle. So as the turbine is driven, it also drives a generator, which creates energy. And nuclear energy accounts for about 11% of the world's energy. So what exactly is a nuclear reactor? It's basically where the heat is produced through the nuclear reaction, and is the source for the generated electricity. So the components are the fuel going in, and then you have a moderator or a coolant. You have the control rod inside, the steam generator, pressure vessel, and containment. The fuel is usually an isotope of uranium. The moderator and coolant, the moderator can be either water or graphite. Water is usually the coolant, and the control rod is made up of material that absorbs neutrons. So it can be any list of, whatever's efficient at absorbing the neutrons. The steam generator is basically what helps create the heat to run the turbine and therefore produce the electricity. The pressure vessel is the vessel that contains the reactor and the core and moderator inside. And it's all inside of the containment, which is basically a housing to keep all of the radioactive activity inside, because it can be very dangerous. So the advantages of nuclear power, it's easily adopted where water and coal resources are not available. It requires a very small quantity of fuel. It can be smaller than other forms or other power plants, so it can save on space. Like some renewable resources such as solar, wind, stuff like that, it's not affected by adverse weather conditions. And it doesn't use fossil fuels as much as other power plants, so those fossil fuels can be used in other needs. The number of workmen required is less than a thermal plant, and however, the disadvantages is basically the radioactive activity. You have a lot of waste from radioactive waste, which needs to be properly disposed of. Any leak can cause serious accident or can be catastrophic. The radiation produced can cause illnesses such as cancer and stuff like that. It is very expensive, and the maintenance is not easy for it. And that's all I have. Any questions?